Now, what is the choice or criteria of feeding is requirements or points to be considered in feeding strategy. Prerequisite of the selection of appropriate feeds for use within aquaculture feeding strategy is what we should take into consideration. Conduct a survey of the feed resources of the area. I told you that when we have to reduce cost of the feed, not only at what unit price it is being sold, but everything should be calculated from where it will be carried out, whether it will be available year round or not. Right? So, survey of the feed resources of the area, whether your area is having some kind of feed, or if not feed, if you are going to prepare on farm feed or feed on your farm, then whether your area is having the kind of feed ingredients that you need to prepare fish feed. So you will have to scan or survey the region according to your requirement, whether prepared feed or feed ingredients from which you can prepare the fish feed on your farm only. Where these resources are geographically located, are they very far from your place of fish culture, or they are very near? I mean, are these places accessible easily? Transportation facility, distance, that will again incur some kind of cost. So all these things should be taken into consideration. How much is available and when? You should not go for those ingredients which are available in only one specific or two specific months or in one season. We should go for those ingredients, even if they are produced in one season or the other, they are available in the market throughout. So, if we are preparing our own food and if we are going for food which is already available in complete form, then the supply of that should also be taken into consideration. That it should be available in the quantity you need and at the time you need. So, whether it is for feed or whether it is for feed ingredient from which you will prepare your own food. What are the agencies currently using these resources and how? This becomes very important if you are going for procurement of feed ingredients from which you will prepare your own fish feed. Here, we should know that what are the factors that can influence its availability, its price, its transportation and other things. So, whether these ingredients are being used in other agencies, for example, whether they are being used to prepare cattle feed, whether they are used to prepare poultry feed, or there are some other uses of these ingredients. So, all that you should take into consideration just to ensure that when you need, you get it cost effectively and abundantly, whatever is required to you. The nutrient composition and cost of these resources. Yes, one more thing, cost effectiveness we have talked. Nutrient composition, the ingredients you are using, they must be rich in the nutrients which you are looking for, or for which you are going to select that particular ingredient. And the quality of that nutrient and availability of the nutrient to the fish should also be taken into account. And we should try to avoid feed ingredients which may be having high ANFs or where ANFs cannot be minimized, or in other words, using an ingredient which cannot show good digestibility and conversion efficiency in case of fish. So those are the important considerations. Important considerations before choosing an appropriate supplementary diet or complete diet feeding strategy. What are other important considerations that we should take into account? Amount of capital available for investment. Here, it again decides that what kind of feed we are going to have. For example, if some guests are coming to our home, we can prepare food, nutritionally balanced food of the same nutrient content with different ingredients. Whether you are taking plant origin ingredients or you are taking animal origin ingredients, according to the type and cost of the feed ingredient, your food will have different cost. For example, there are some special kind of mushrooms which are very costly. So, if you are using those mushrooms in order to prepare your food will be very costly. So, depending on what kind of economic condition or what how much money we are able to spend, depending on that capital, that money which can be spared for aquaculture, we should go for the choice of the ingredients in order to make it nutritionally balanced feed for the fish. So your capital investment is of prime concern. So you should take all the decisions by looking at long list of feed ingredients which you can select, which is cheaper and still provides good results. Feed availability and cost. I told you about the cost, but also whether the feed is available throughout or not, that we have already discussed. It is having nutrient composition you are looking for, it is cost effective, and it is available. Feed transport and processing cost. Again, this is related to your economic viability, that we have discussed it in the previous slide also, that it should not be very far from your place, or its supply should not cost you, transportation and other things should not cost you more in order to affect your viability of a culture practice. And processing cost. If you are taking some diet where you cannot include it as such in your fish feed which you are going to prepare on your farm, and you have to necessarily process it, the processing itself will require some kind of effort which may need money. So ultimately you are raising the cost of food prepared, cost of feed prepared. So that should be taken into account. Feeding habit of fish, shrimp to be cultured. This one is important point. This one is very important point, that we should know that what kind of feed, what kind of food the fish prefers in natural environment, whether it is planktivorous, whether it is herbivorous, whether it is omnivorous. It can feed on insect larvae, or it can feed on, what is the feeding habit, and what kind of nutrient input the fish is looking for in natural environment. Accordingly, we can go for setting the nutrient profile of the feed which we are going to provide to the fish, or shrimp, whatever. Then feeding behavior and nutrient requirements of fish. Then there are certain fishes which try to consume diet when they are little shy in accepting the diet. So they may accept food when there is little dark, or when sun is setting in, or early in the morning. They do not accept when there is enough light in the pond. So the kind of feeding behavior and the kind of nutrient requirement that we have already discussed, we will have to have complete information on these aspects in order to get a good feeding strategy. Now, parameters important for an effective feeding strategy in aquaculture. It's not only that you are looking here only for feed. There are many other aspects, since feed is the single largest input cost. So we have to minimize that. When we have to minimize that, we have to take into consideration all these: stocking density, water temperature, fish health, feed composition, stress condition, dissolved oxygen, ration size, feeding frequency, feed palatability, feeding method. We will discuss one by one. Stocking density, we all know that when stocking density is increased or decreased, that will influence the competition for space, for food, everything. And ultimately, according to the stocking density, whether there is a thinning of the population or there are more denser population, the food conversion ratio, the availability and acceptability of the food, will also be influenced with this, and accordingly, the conversion of food will also have an impact. Water quality. When you are stocking more food, when you go on increasing the number, stocking density is increasing, then more food has to be put in. And if you are putting in more food, there are large number of fishes. They may cause rapid nutrient leaching by disturbing water, agitating water more and more, and unutilized amount of food may also be more, and that will ultimately impair or impact adversely the water quality. And water quality, I'm not going to tell you here in detail because we have talked separately for the water quality, but water quality will be deteriorated. Fish growth, behavior and health, stocking density. We all know that influences fish growth and behavior and health if you are not managing it properly, if you are not devising your feeding strategy according to the stocking density. It has been reported that here, I'm just giving you here one reference that study was published in 2023, that a stocking density of 60 fish per cubic meter combined with a feeding schedule of 5 days a week. They are giving 2 feeding holidays in a week. Optimizes food utilization, achieving a feed conversion ratio of 0.94. That is amazing. Below 1 in Nile tilapia. 1:1 means you are putting in 1 kilogram of food and you are getting 1 kilogram of biomass. Here 0.94 kilogram is resulting in 1 kilogram. So that is something amazing, ideal situation almost. So what they have done, they simply increase the stocking density, but they have played with or manipulated the feeding schedule, and ultimately the profitability of the culture practice is dependent mostly on good FCR. If FCR is good, profitability will be more because less quantity of food is giving you more biomass, and when this is the case, the highest input cost may be reduced, so making your culture or your aquaculture venture more profitable. Water temperature, we all know, is a key factor influencing feeding behavior, and its effect differ among species. Why it happens? Fish, they are poikilothermic, we all know, and being poikilothermic, that means they can adjust their body temperature according to the ambient conditions. And if there is variation in the ambient conditions, ambient temperature within a certain range, within the optimal range, then there is no problem. But if it goes beyond the optimal range, then there will be problem. And what will happen if it goes beyond the optimal range? When we increase little bit from moderate to little bit more, then voluntary food intake increases with moderate temperature rises, but decreases when temperature exceed or fall below the fish's optimal range. Within the optimal range, if you increase from lower side of the range to the higher side of the range, the food consumption may increase, even utilization may show good pattern. But if the temperature goes beyond the optimal range, then that is going to have adverse impact on everything, right from food consumption to utilization. Then there are many stressors that may be physical or environmental or social, that they will hinder food intake and alter feeding behavior of fish. Feeding strategies can help mitigate chronic abiotic stress in fish, particularly in intensive conditions where stresses such as poor water quality, handling, or overcrowding are prevalent. Stress will be there if we will go to intensify the aquaculture practice that I have already explained. In extensive, we are having very less number of fishes, stocking density is very low. In semi-intensive aquaculture, we are increasing stocking density but not that high. In intensive system, we increase stocking density almost to the maximum whatever is possible. When you increase the stocking density, that means you are keeping more and more number of fishes in the confined environment, the same area. That means they will be under some kind of stress. And if you are not able to provide the optimal nutrient requirement of the fish every day, and in the form they need their feed, at the time when they need their feed, if you are able to take care of all this, then their stress may be mitigated. And also, you will have to ensure that whatever is being offered, they utilize it almost completely so that water quality is also not compromised. So if you do all this, then these chronic abiotic stresses can be mitigated. They will not adversely impact your candidate species which you are cultivating. Dissolved oxygen, we all know, is a very important parameter that we have discussed in our water quality lecture. This affects feeding strategy by influencing mainly its appetite, growth, FCR, and stress. Dissolved oxygen, we know that if dissolved oxygen goes beyond the optimal range, then it will hamper, metabolic rate and food consumption and overall growth and utilization of the food also. So, fish growth and health is significantly affected by the quality and quantity of feed. Of course, this will be directly affected that if you are not providing good quality food, nutritionally balanced food, and in the quantity which is required, and you are not feeding the fish, the number of times it needs to feed, then it will influence not only fish growth adversely, but it may cause even health problems. That is quite understandable. Sick fish usually have less appetite than healthy fish. Feed composition is another important point. Is influenced by the choice of fish feed ingredients. It will have an impact on nutrient levels, pellet quality, bulk density, palatability of the diet. Now, all these parameters are very important. So, while choosing, feed ingredient, we should be very careful that it should not alter the overall feed composition of the diet, which is being designed or tailor-made for your specific candidate fish species. Whatever target fish species you are having in your pond, you are preparing diet for that tailor-made diet. So the choice of feed ingredient should be such that feed composition is not impacted, because if feed composition is impacted, then all these parameters, nutrient levels, pellet quality, bulk density, palatability, everything will be affected. Bulk density refers to that if bulk density is less, then it will be floating diet, and for surface feeders, if bulk density is more, then it will be sinking diet. So accordingly, everything will be impacted if you are not taking care of this. Ration size, very important parameter, is critical element in fish feeding strategy. In fact, ration size refers to how much of food will be needed by the fish per day. So you will have to calculate this by calculating the requirement of the fish, the food in gram or kilogram per kg of its body weight. So how much food a fish needs per kg of its body weight, that depends on life stage of the fish. For example, in early life stage, the fish may require more than 10% of its body weight, or maybe more, 15%, 20% of its body weight. So initially in the young stage, it will require more food, or ration level will be more with respect to its body weight, but it will grow in age. The ration level will go on decreasing, and ultimately the ration level comes to about 2% of its body weight. So whatever the percentage is, that ration level you will have to fix by having, say for example, weekly or fortnightly at least netting in the pond, and having an idea that what is the total biomass of your pond. So according to by taking that biomass and then observing the life stage in which your fishes are present, you can calculate accordingly that whether they are needing 2% of their body weight, or 3% of body weight, or 4% of body weight. Accordingly, you can calculate how much food is required. Then you can calculate that how much nutrients, what is the ratio of different nutrients which is required, and accordingly you can prepare your diet by nutritionally balanced diet on your farm only, and provide only that much food. Say for example, if you have calculated that only 5 kilograms of food is to be supplied to the pond daily for a week or for a fortnight, then go for only 5 kg. Don't go beyond that, and that should also be in proper form. So that is something which influences not only fish growth but it is also a determining factor of water quality. If you are going to provide more food, there will be more wastage and it's ultimately adversely impacting the water quality. Optimizing feeding frequency, the number of times you are going to feed the fish. It is usually believed that more number of times you are feeding, better result you are getting. That is why people many times go for demand feeding or something. So you will have to adjust the feeding frequency. For example, I told you that if you don't have any idea, if you are putting in food maybe 10 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon or during the noon, that may not have good impact. You should have the idea that how many times and at what times you should feed the fish according to the feeding behavior and feeding habit of the fish. Feeding frequency can vary according to fish's life stage. I just explained it to you. Enhancing the feed palatability, the taste, the attractiveness, so that fishes are attracted to the feed you are offering. They should come and feed that. That is again very important thing. So that should be taken into account. We should use certain ingredients, feed ingredients, which are liked by the fish. For example, fish meal is showing very good feed palatability, or some other animal origin products can also be used. So that will decrease the time of the feed remains in the water unutilized. So as the feed should be utilized as soon as possible by the fish within the water, because the longer the time it will remain, feed will remain in the water, there are great chances of nutrient leaching. So we are compromising not only the feed quality but also adversely impacting the water quality. It reduces the feed wastage and makes the culture system eco-friendly. That just I explained you. Feeding method is another important point in feeding strategy that ensures the timely feed availability or supply to the candidate fish species according to the feeding habit and behavior. Feeding method, I just explained you somewhere in the previous slide that if we are culturing katla, then our method should be such that feed is available on the surface. If we are culturing a bottom feeder, then feed should reach to the bottom as fast as possible. Or if we are having labiorota, targeting labiorota feeding, then feed should travel from surface to bottom very slowly, so that it remains in the column for a longer period of time and the fish may utilize. So feeding method is going to impact. Types of feed on the basis of feeding habits of the cultured species. The same thing here. It has been for surface feeders. We usually have flakes, which are available to surface feeders. They float on the surface for a long period of time. Slow sinking for column feeder, which will sink but very slowly. Fast sinking, which will sink very fast, and that is targeted for bottom feeders. These are some of the photographs. You may get more photographs from there. Thank you so much. That's all in this lecture. Thank you so much.